increased risk of pelvic scarring and things like that, which is going to have an impact on your fertility. So, chlamydia is one of those nasty little silent infections which can cause quite a lot of havoc. Alcohol is a big one to try and avoid. The most vulnerable time for a child is in those first few weeks after conception, and often, pregnant at that point has not yet been detected. And unfortunately, current evidence is a bit inconclusive as to the amount of alcohol that might be safe. So we say, it's safest to try and avoid all alcohol during and in the 3 to 4 months before a desired pregnancy for both partners, not just for the female. And if that's just too hard, we suggest that no more than 1 unit in 24 hours is possibly better than 7 units over a weekend. So you really want to be ideally avoiding or just keeping it as minimal as possible and trying to avoid binge drinking. Caffeine is another one where there's a bit more research coming through on the impact that it does have on fertility. There's quite a few studies out there that have shown that 300 milligrams of caffeine a day increases the time to conceive and also increases the risk of miscarriage or stillbirth. So anyone, for example, who has particularly been experiencing miscarriages would be very prudent to give up caffeine totally. Some studies show adverse effects at even lower doses. So you can see where this is going, probably. So, and some other recent reports also suggest an excessive amount of caffeine can reduce and retard the quality of sperm produced as well. So this isn't just for females; it's a male and female thing. So if you get 300 milligrams of caffeine is equivalent to about 3 cups of coffee, 3 to 6 cups of tea, depending on how strong you make it, or 10 cans of cola. And you also need to remember that energy drinks, some soft drinks, and chocolate also contain caffeine. So again, ideally, it's great to avoid caffeine totally, or have a maximum of 2 cups of coffee a day, but ideally less than that. And then on to exercise. So this is this is one that really, when I'm talking to my clients, I do tend to try and fit the exercise recommendation to what they have been doing, what would be best for them, what they enjoy, that kind of thing. But we suggest that at least an hour 3 times a week of regular moderate exercise will benefit your overall physical, emotional and general well-being, which will then have a positive impact on your fertility. Equally, excessive exercise can negatively affect fertility in both men and women. And when we say excessive, it's kind of like, more than 4 hours a week of intense cardiovascular exercise. And for women, sometimes they'll know they're exercising too much because they'll lose their periods. And that's an extreme example, but it's just something to be mindful of. And in men, particularly exercise which might increase testicular heating, like cycling, for example, will have a negative impact on sperm health. We need to remember that the scrotum and the testes dangle down for a reason. They're external to the body because they're designed to be several degrees below your core body temperature for normal sperm production. So as soon as you put on a pair of cycling shorts or some lycra or your wetsuit, and then you're sitting on, say, a bike seat for a long period of time, you're increasing that scrotal temperature, which can have an impact on your sperm production and your quality. So another thing is men who spend a lot of time sitting, particularly like truck drivers or something like that. They need to be mindful of that because, again, you're just putting a lot of pressure on that area and a lot of extra heating. So if you're a cyclist, as well, try and get off your bike, have breaks, that sort of thing, and also try and avoid hot tubs, saunas, and very hot steamy baths. And another thing we look at is recreational drugs. Marijuana is probably one of the most commonly used recreational drugs, and that can cause abnormal reproductive function. Cocaine and heroin will also interfere with healthy sperm and healthy eggs as well. And less is known about the effect of your synthetic drugs like P, but I can't imagine that they have a positive impact on your fertility. So sorry, this is a bit of a whip through of all these things, but we don't have time to go into great detail tonight, but at least it gives you an idea about the kind of things you can be looking at doing. The next thing is looking at cigarette smoking. Cigarette smoking halves the chance of pregnancy per month, both with natural conception and IVF. It's a major cause of preterm births and low birth weight babies, and it's also associated with an increased risk in spontaneous abortions. And I think it's really worth noting here that women who smoke are ineligible for publicly funded treatment or even to go onto the waiting list for IVF. And, men aren't included in this at the moment, but, maybe they should be. Both prospective parents should stop smoking at least 3 to 4 months before any conception attempts. And the reason, I don't know if you know, the reason that we say for 3 to 4 months is because it takes about that long for the final maturation of the egg and for a whole new batch of sperm to come through, so that we know over that everything you do in that period of time will have an impact on the health of the egg and the health of the sperm. Prescription medications are tricky. It's really important that if you are on any meds that you discuss with your GP the impact they may have on your fertility, and if you're a female, if they are safe during pregnancy as well. It's best to err on the side of caution but with prescription meds and consider alternatives where appropriate, but you're not, we don't suggest ever that you take yourself off anything and self-medicate. Another thing is chemotherapy drugs and radiation treatment for cancer can cause permanent infertility. So for men, there is that possibility of retrieving and storing sperm before you start your treatment. And for women, eggs can be frozen and stored. So, there are options there for those people. And certain meds, common meds that people might be taking that can contribute to fertility issues are calcium channel blockers, which are used for high blood pressure, tricyclic antidepressants, antiandrogens, and steroids. So they're all drugs that can cause problems. Environmental factors are massive, and there's just rafts and rafts of studies and information coming through on the negative impact of a lot of environmental factors, and a lot of them we can't do a lot about, but I guess if we're mindful and we're aware, we can take steps to mitigate or at least reduce the impact that these things will have on us. So at home and in your workplace, avoid environmental toxicity as much as you can. And at work, that's wearing protective clothing, wearing masks, that kind of thing where appropriate. And don't forget, all your cleaning products, your cosmetics, your hair dryers, those kind of things are all chemicals that just add to that body burden and that load that you're having to, your liver, your body's having to deal with, which can have an impact again on your general health, but also on your fertility. So if we have a wee look at free radicals, these are the toxic metabolites that they can impair the ability of sperm to fertilize, and they also damage the DNA found in the head of the sperm. So this will have an impact on the health of the sperm and its ability to penetrate the egg, and of course they can also have an impact on the egg health as well. And these toxic substances are found in a number of environmental chemicals we're exposed to. And I guess if you look at the impact, it's kind of a bit like, we call it like cellular rusting. So it's a bit like that process of rusting. So it's not a great thing to happen to our cars or within our bodies. So we try to block that free radical damage by the use of antioxidants, which can be helpful, but also eating a diet that's very rich in antioxidant foods, which I think you probably have. If any of you attended Tuesday's seminar, they would have been talking about that. Heavy metals are things like lead, mercury, aluminium, and arsenic. And many studies show that heavy metals can alter your hormone levels and decrease overall fertility in men and women. And they're also implicated in miscarriages, stillbirths, and preterm delivery as well. And then we've got things that we call endocrine disruptors. So that's like your pesticides, your insecticides, plastics, and some of your cosmetics. So they act as endocrine disruptors, and they can bind to your hormone receptors because they look very similar to your hormones, and that can just really mess things up and have varying damaging effects on your reproductive health of men and women. And because they mimic natural hormones. They can impede normal hormonal activity and just all that regulation and function of the endocrine system, which is already quite a, tricky anyway. And then we move on to radiation, and there are a number of kinds and amounts of radiation out there that we are exposed to, and ultimately they can affect fertility. And there's one study that I read that said that we are exposed to the amount of radiation in one day that our grandparents were exposed to in their lifetime. So, oh no, sorry, not in their lifetime. I think it was a year, but it's quite significantly more. So there's a few things we can do, because we can't change again. If you work in an office setting and you're surrounded by computers and photocopiers and things like that, you can't do much to change that. But there are a few things, just in the home that you can just be mindful of. And the first thing is avoid placing a laptop computer directly on your lap. I know it says it's a laptop, but it's not really a great place, because just under your lap you've got your testicles and your sperm and your eggs sitting away in your ovaries, and you can impact, that heat and that radiation can have a negative impact on them. Another thing, particularly for men, because they tend to do this the most, is avoid carrying your cell phone around in your trouser pocket. Take it out, put it on the desk, or as far away from you as possible. And then leave your phones, your computers, your TVs out of the bedroom overnight. And you could even consider turning your Wi-Fi off while you sleep, and you may find that your sleep is deeper and more restful as well. A lot of these things have positive side effects. Stress is another big one, and what will stress one person won't stress another, and so it's very much an individual thing, and everyone has different ways that they cope and manage different types of stress. But whatever it is for you, it can decrease sexual function and interfere with the hormones that are needed to produce sperm. And in women, it can have an impact on egg development and the health of your menstrual cycle. So as best you can, try to proactively manage your stress and prioritize self-care. And especially when you are going through fertility issues, this is really a big thing, and it's a tough one, and it's challenging. So things that you can look at are things like yoga, exercise, rest and relaxation, practicing meditation or mindfulness, and they will all help to keep your life in balance while you try to conceive. And it's just trying to find something that works for you, that you can kind of click into, and makes you feel like you've got a bit more control over things. So you can make a difference, and I think that's really the big thing, the big take-home thing for anyone listening tonight, is that you really can make a difference. You can make a massive difference. And while for a lot of you may still need IVF, may still need to look down those pathways, I guess at the worst you're going to feel better, your health is going to be better, and at the best you'll get a healthy pregnancy and a healthy child out of it. But with all these dietary and lifestyle modifications, it's really important to remember it's for both partners, for everybody involved, to increase your chances of conceiving, but also to have that positive impact on the health of your child and your grandchildren. So improving your diet, making those healthy lifestyle choices, really, I can't say how massive that impact can be on your reproductive and your general health. But if you do need advice or support, as Juanita said, it's out there. There are many avenues that you can look at, and we're very happy to help put you onto the right people so you can get the support and help that you need. A good herbalist or naturopath who specialises in fertility may be a good place for you to begin, but be aware too that I work in with GPs and specialists, so we're not just trying to do it on our own. We really want to have that collaborative approach to get you the best outcome that we can. So it's really make a plan and get started, and ask for help, put your feelers out there, and find the team that can help support you to get what you need. And I guess another question that we get asked is when should we be seeking help? If you're less than 25, they tend to say that to see your GP about 12 months after trying, if you haven't had success. If the woman is 35 to 40, we say 9 months of trying to conceive. And if you're over 40, see your GP after 6 months of trying to conceive. But if you do have major health issues, or you have something that you think might, particular concerns, or you've got reproductive issues, then I would seek help sooner than that. And remember too, if you do meet those eligibility criteria, your GP will be able to refer you on to a consultation with a fertility specialist, or you can always make a private appointment without going through the GP as well. So there are, lots of avenues open to you, and you just need to have a wee look around and see what might work for you. So that's a very, very quick brush through of what you can be doing. And I'll just have it. Has anyone got any questions? I've got one just pop up here. Excuse me while I try and read it. With insecticides, is a one-off spraying of weeds okay? And is it more for people who are continuously exposed to these chemicals through work, etc.? I think obviously for people who are continuously exposed, their loading is going to be higher. But a one-off may just tip the balance for you. So if you must spray, give it to somebody else, the job, or make sure that you're doing it with full protective gear, and no wind and that kind of thing. But if you can avoid it, that is really the best thing to be doing. Anyone else got any questions? What would you suggest for confirmed low sperm count and low hormone levels? That's when I would suggest seeing somebody, like a naturopath or a herbalist who do specialize in fertility, because there are a lot of things you can do and a lot of things you can take, like antioxidants. There's a lot of herbs and things that you can use to help support your hormone levels. It's hard to because we treat each individual, depending on what is going on for them, and we have quite a comprehensive process of working out, what might be the best things there for you. But that would probably, in that situation, that's where I would be heading, is towards the support of a herbalist or a naturopath, and then, if we need to, then you can go on to further help with fertility clinics and that kind of thing. But at least, even if you need to go through to have IVF, at least we may get that sperm count up a bit higher than it is, which may mean that you can avoid ICSI, for example. And with the hormone levels, if we get you, more balanced, then again, if you do need to go on to IVF, you're in a better position to hopefully have success that way too. Hopefully that answers that for you, Sophie. Any other questions? No more? Well, I hope that was useful for you. And oh, there's Juanita. Oh no, I'll hand over to Juanita to finish off for us.
Awesome. Thank you, Jo. That was really great. And a really great sort of starting off point in terms of getting some support and maximising your chances for both natural conception and hopefully supporting you all through any assisted reproduction that you might have. So that's the end of tonight's webinar. Our next session is actually tomorrow morning at 10 a.m. with Fiona McDonald, who's a fertility counsellor in Auckland, and she will be talking us through building resilience through infertility, and she has some great tips around stress management and coping issues and all that's really important self-care stuff, and things that can hopefully not necessarily change the outcome but make the journey a bit more easy to deal with. And on Sunday evening at 8 o'clock, Dr. Guy Guddex is here with infertility diagnoses and treatment. So that's a bit of a fertility and IVF 101 session. So I hope you've all enjoyed this evening and got something out of it. Thanks again, Jo, and that's it for now. We'll see you next time.